We'll call to order the regular board meeting of the Board of Supervisors for Tuesday, March 27, 2012. We will start with the invocation by Pastor Robert Brown from First Baptist Church of Reading, and I will do the Pledge of Allegiance. Pastor?
Let us pray. Our most kind and gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the rain as you have answered our prayers and filling up our lakes, rivers, and streams. We pray for continued blessings to flow like this rain, bringing commerce and industry and success to this county. And we thank you for the privilege of living in such a great county. We pray that you'll bless the supervisors and bless each one here, that we might be about the business of making Shasta County the best place it possibly can be. Amen.
As we recite the pledge, please keep in mind today that we're also going to honor our Vietnam veterans. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The next order of business is the public comment period. Those who want to speak should come up before the podium. Please give your name. Each speaker is allocated 3 minutes to speak. Comments should be limited to matters within the jurisdiction of the board, other than to pursuant to the Brown Act. Board discussion cannot be taken on open time matters other than receive comments and if deemed necessary to refer the subject matter to the appropriate department for follow-up and to schedule the matter for a subsequent board agenda. I do have a couple requests to speak. I have a Mike Hutchinson and a Lois Yeomans, whichever would like to go first.
I thought we'd be towards the end.
Well, it's only...
I guess this is the end.
This is end, isn't it?
All right. Good morning.
Good morning.
I would like to describe to a small degree my 3-year odyssey through the Shasta County Family Court System. I realize the council, or the Board of Supervisors in the county, doesn't really have any control over the judges or the courts in general, but I thought it would be a good idea to let you know what it's like to be a person caught in that system over there. This started about 3+ years ago. I'm a stepdad. I have 4 kids. When this started, they were 11 and a half, 8, 6 and a half, and 4. If you will look through the paperwork here, I've put things together that will kind of show my plight and what our life has been like for the last 3 years. Second page, basically down towards the bottom, it gives the criminal record of the father in this case. And all the times he's basically been convicted of abuse, drug use, and a number of other felony violations and a number of additional probation violations. On the third page there's a report from Child and Family Services recording all the different times that they've had reports, which was 8 in total prior to 2008. There's a bit of a discussion and a recommendation from the mediator, but it's not accurate. It's wrong. On the next page, you'll find a client complaint form. Shortly after this whole mess started, the mediator, who is a county employee, my understanding, decided that in open court, she would give privileged information in the middle of a police investigation while the suspect sat there. She denied it, but oddly enough, the mediator's department removed her from the case. One of the first things I learned when you go into the family court system is if you accuse anybody of abuse, especially sexual abuse, you're immediately made out to be a liar. And the longer you're in the system, the bigger a liar you become. On the next page, in collateral information, there's a list of the various and sundry therapists and counselors that were actually required by the court to see if the kids had actually been abused. If you read through it when you have time, I know you won't right now, you'll see that all of them say that the kids said what they said in their own words, and none of them were coached. So they've never considered us liars. there's a common theme that runs throughout this, and it says from the mediators to proceed with caution, nothing but supervised visitation, no overnights. You'll also come to a point where you'll see that CPS actually founded the allegations against the father in this case in 2 different instances and inconclusive on a 3rd. Now, that sounds pretty serious, but the judge decided it was all lies, and the more information we got and the more information we provided, the bigger the liars we became.
You need to sum up now, Mr. Hutchinson. Your 3 minutes are up, so.
Thank you.
Mrs. Yeomans?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm here to speak for the mother of these children who would be here, but she is working on her teaching credential and is about to complete it. She's a very intelligent, gracious, and loving mother. Does an excellent job with her children. We enjoy having them in our home, and we love them. We're here to say that I've been told that the court cannot protect these children because you have no jurisdiction over the family court. I find that astonishing because we just said justice for all. There is no justice for these children because the judge refuses to read the evidence in the file and is more than willing to send them back to a father who, by the way, would not even allow his last name to be used when the children were born. I think as fathers, most of you must be, find that quite astonishing. This is a travesty, absolute travesty. These children are terrorized, and I'm terrorized for them. The court has failed them, and you tell me you can do nothing? I am angry. If I have to go to Sacramento, something is going to be changed. This judge shouldn't even be there. For 17 years, he has sucked up money from the county, $240,000 a year, at least that the state pays him, to ruin in family court. How many lives has he ruined? How many mothers have been told they're liars? If these were your grandchildren, I think you'd find a way. Please help us.
Thank you, Ms. Yeomans. We will relay the information on to the state, as the state is the overseer of the courts and the judges. We will pass that along. The next speaker is Charles Alexander.
I thought I was going to get another chance to come up. Am I mistaken?
At the very end.
Okay.
Mr. Alexander snuck in on you.
Thank you for the opportunity here today to address the board on the matter of the Anselmo case. It has recently been reported in the Record Searchlight that in apparent contravention of the Golos Naroda, or Voice of the People, expressed last February 27th, the county is seeking additional action against Mr. Anselmo by, according to the article, attempting to have practically his entire business operation shut down. This is, to all appearances, quite despicable. The policy appears to be one of talking conciliation while concurrently waging apparent Sveshania Vojna, or sacred war. What was all this business about inquiry into possible reform of supervision of certain county officers? Was that for show? Nishago Nazad, not one step back. That would certainly appear to be the supreme directive concerning this case, which seems intended as some sort of example. If that were not so, then this latest act would have no explanation. For all appearances, indeed, the county seems to have regarded this whole matter as some sort of a sveshania vojna. How else is the whole sorry saga supposed to be explained, especially when consideration of the fact that the original case has not even gone to trial yet, and that because the county's been trying in vain to have the whole case thrown out before even the first deposition was taken? Could it be, perhaps, not saying it is necessarily, but could it be that certain facts that, if introduced at trial, might potentially put certain county officers in a, to put it mildly, less than favorable light? This is not to say that that is necessarily the case here. 'Twas said to introduce to the discussion the possible consideration of a possibility into which perhaps formal enquiry should be made. It must, however, be said that if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, chances are it's not a hippo. This sveshania vojna must stop. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alexander. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak other than Mr.? Okay.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Mike Ricks. I'm not a public speaker, but I will use this teleprompter I've carefully prepared. So here goes something, I hope. Remember, when you good people help out where government jobs once were, our representatives will think, oh boy, we have some extra money so we can pass more spending legislation. And that is exactly what will happen. In fact, they do it now, even when there is no extra money. That is why they want more free tax dollars from whoever. Which brings up the matter of free helping jobs. That is to say, jobs that won't cost the taxpayer anything. Which also brings to mind the quote, "We need more jobs, jobs, jobs." Well, why don't you representatives up there include in your letter to tell our Kenya president to tell the U.S. Forest Service, that is U.S. of A, forest with a little f, service with a little s, to give us our forest back for logging jobs. And tell the environmentalists where to stick their beliefs. Excuse me, I got an itch here. In closing, I just want to say, this has been my freedom of speech. In closing, I just want to say, grazie, gracias, dankeschön, merci very much for this time of freedom of expression. Thank you.
Mr. Ricks? Anyone else going to come forward? Okay, Mr. Hutchison, if you still want.
Judge Halpin's been on the bench a very long time. There's been a lot of discussion about his mental capabilities. If you go online and Google this man, page after page after page of some pretty horrible stuff comes up. He's being reassigned, supposedly. They're not saying where or to what, but he's not going to be supposedly the head of family court anymore, which sounds like a good thing. But as long as he's in the system, if one of his old cases come up, he's right back there again. You don't get a new judge. You get him again. So there's no way out of it. You get to go through what they call Judge Halpin's meat grinder. Okay. At the end of the hearing, he called my wife a liar. He said she was undoubtedly the most evil and despicable woman he has ever had in his courtroom. See, now he's been doing the law since '52. That's kind of hard to accept. Her ex-husband, Mr. Nash, will shortly have the availability of all of his children on and off basis. He currently just has their sibling's half-brother. He's 16. The oldest boy will soon be 15. The oldest girl will soon be 11 or 12. And the youngest boy will soon is 10. The youngest girl is 7. It's going to be a pretty full house. Plus, I understand he just recently took to heart the needs of a poor, homeless 17-year-old girl, and she'll be living there too. Nobody knows who she is, and nobody cares, apparently. So we're going to have 3 teenagers and 3 pre-teenagers in a household with a man that's on the central registry for sex abuse of children, and he's been put there twice. What he's doing with a 17-year-old, I don't know. Where any of this is going to go, I don't know. But when the court institutes basically the mandated requirement that children be sent back to a man that everyone the children has talked to, that the court required them to talk to, says, yes, indeed, this man did abuse these children. And the judge's response to that was, any evidence from CPS is irrelevant. All they do is rather arbitrarily put labels on things. Wouldn't hear the evidence, ignored all the professional evidence, ignored everything from every single agency that was required to report to the court. It wasn't a trial, it was a complete and total farce. And my children are going back to a man that will, without any doubt in my mind, abuse them just like he did before. They've been taught to defend themselves, but when you get drugged, there isn't much you can do about it. And he's been accused of that 3 times in 10 years. Thank you for your time, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Hutchison. I'm going to refer this matter to the sheriff, maybe to look at it one more time. Mr. Cruz?
Thank you, Chairman Modi. As the board is aware, this board has no jurisdiction, of course, over the Superior Court or its judges. It's a separate branch of government. Of course, I would encourage the individuals who have these concerns to, of course, use whatever appellate processes are available to them to challenge the rulings. This can also be brought to the attention of the Administrative Office of the Courts, as well as the presiding judge of the local Superior Court. And if there are other concerns, there's also an agency called the Commission on Judicial Performance that investigates alleged misconduct of judges. Of course, I'm not saying there has been any misconduct, but those are all avenues that are available.
Thank you, Mr. Cruz. We'll move on to our regular calendar. R1, consider adopting a proclamation which designates March 30th, 2012 as Welcome Home Vietnam Veterans Day in Shasta County. Shasta County Board of Supervisors proclamation. Whereas the members of the United States Armed Forces began serving in an advisory role in South Vietnam in 1961, and as a result of the Gulf of Tonkin incidents on August 2nd and August 4th, 1964, the United States Congress overwhelmingly passed the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution. And in 1965, there were 80,000 United States troops in Vietnam, and by 1969, a peak of approximately 543,000 troops was reached. And more than 58,000 members of the United States Armed Forces lost their lives in Vietnam, of which 44 were Shasta County residents. Now, therefore, be resolved that the Shasta County Board of Supervisors hereby proclaims March 30th, 2012 as Welcome Home Vietnam Veterans Day in Shasta County, urging all citizens to honor the sacrifices made by our Vietnam veterans and pay special homage to the men and women who gave their lives defending freedom and preserving our way of life. Now, therefore, be further resolved that this year's proclamation is presented to the Vietnam Veterans of America, Chapter 357. Moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Mr. McAllister, are you coming to accept the?
Members of the Chapter 357.
Well, it gives me great. sure you didn't touch this before I got up here? Okay, just checking. It's with great pleasure on behalf of my colleagues here on the board to present this proclamation to our Vietnam veterans here in Shasta County. As we know, many of that generation gave of themselves to protect our freedoms and to serve their country. And of course, when you came back, there was a different world, but a lot of that has changed now, I hope, and it's a great honor for us today to honor your service and your sacrifices of those and also of the ones that were left behind. So on behalf of us, thank you very much.
You know, we were truly blessed to be here again today, and we appreciate the proclamation. This is our third annual Welcome Home Vietnam Veterans Day. And our Vice President, Julie Clausen, she was asked the question, why do we do this? And she wrote a 2-page letter about it, so if anybody wants to know, we can email that to you. But basically, you know, we have veterans here in this county that still are not with us, and we reach out to them every year, once a year, but all year long. We have veterans that, you know, have gifts of the head, the heart, and the hand, and putting this event together is a collaboration of all veterans. We even have support from other veterans organizations. Some of those people are here with us today. So we are just always looking to be involved in the community. Saturday, the 31st is actually the day we'll be burying a Vietnam veteran and also featuring a memorial or monument, Vietnam Veterans Monument, that's going to be constructed at the Veterans Cemetery in Igo. So thank you very much for this proclamation.
Mr. Modi, would it be timely if we could ask all of the veterans in the room this morning to stand so we could show our appreciation?
We certainly can do that. Next item, R2, is the Shasta County Wellness Task Force Department of Support Services presentation on Shasta County's Healthy for Life Challenge 2012. Ms. Schaefer.
Thank you. Good morning. Michelle Schaefer, Director of Support Services, and also the co-chair of the Shasta County Wellness Task Force. Thank you for once again allowing me to come and present this information. This is our 5th annual Healthy for Life Challenge. We really get a lot of excitement at this time of the year for the challenge, and in fact they ask us to kind of do it all year long, but we can't always do that. But we want to make sure that we recognize those who participated and who continue to support the program. Basically, it's a team approach to build staff support in promoting healthier lifestyles for our employees. We by creating a work environment that supports a culture of health, we walk the talk as a Healthy Shasta partner to promote healthy eating and physical activity among the North State residents and Shasta County employees. This year we had 284 county employees participate, and we had 34 teams, which is 12 more than last year. So every year we continue to get better and bigger. We appreciate that. We had about an average of 233 minutes of physical activity per week for each challenger. And the total participants lost a total of 908 pounds, which averages about 2.5 pounds per person. And if our participants maintain these healthy lifestyle challenges, they could see a 10 to 15 pound weight loss in 1 year based on those types of averages and the participation. Our survey results have come in, and we have resounding success. We're really happy about that. A lot of people saw significant changes in, blood pressure and medications. Some people have been able to lower medications, and so we are really happy to be part of that. and to continue to promote the healthy lifestyles for our employees and their family members. We got a lot of comments about how their family members just kind of picked up and participated. So some of the comments from a couple of participants. For me, the challenge is a fun way to stay focused on my health. It built team camaraderie at work, and I even got my husband to think about his everyday eating habits as we continue with living a healthier lifestyle at home. Another participant stated that on 2 previous occasions when she donated blood, they had told her she had elevated blood pressure, which surprised her because it's normally low. But after the challenge, she was happy to report that the last time she gave blood, she had, again, her normal blood pressure. And she's added quite a bit of physical activity to her normal everyday activities. And she's sleeping better at night. And those are the things that we hope to encourage during this challenge. We had another couple of participants said that their husbands noticed and commented on their lost inches and gained energy. They plan on continuing to dance to Wee's dance party and feel great and continue to support each other in walking during the workday as they can. I want to wish congratulations to our first place team, the Domination Association at the HHSA Adult Services, and I believe we have some representatives from that team. Those team members were Lisa Martin Kepner, Robert Borden, Margie Richards, Amparo Buck, and Tina Robertson. I believe we have a couple of participants here to receive this today. There you go. Thank you very much. We wish you success. Would you like to say anything?
We'd just like to thank you for your support and also for Supervisor BOS for helping us also. So it's been fun and we enjoyed it.
Great. Thank you so much.
Really
Congratulations.
Keep
up the good work. Thank you. The most improved team was the Secret Squirrels from the jail. Those participants were Tim Haskins, John Church, John Zufall, Josh Rodine, Marianne Scheibel, Chase Reed, Grant Lopez, and Irene Atkins. Unfortunately, we don't have a representative, but we will get this to them today. I want to thank Sherry Brooks, Tammy Fry. They are the bone behind this, the backbone behind this program, along with all the other department heads, the CAO's office, the Board of Supervisors, and everyone on the Wellness Task Force for supporting these efforts. We continue, again, to see improvement every year, and we're going to be providing some really exciting things this year. We've actually been recognized by the state of California, and we'll be receiving more information about that in May, as a grassroots wellness program that really, truly works. And so that's really exciting to have that recognized at that higher of a level. So, but I'd like Supervisor Baugh to come down. We have a special presentation for him as he's provided his support for the last 5 years. We can't do this without the support of the people at the top. And every year we get Les to come out and support us and cheer us on. So we want to make sure we recognize him with our very special apple. Presented to Supervisor Les Baugh in appreciation of 5 years of dedication and commitment to the wellness of the Shasta County employees from the Shasta County Wellness Task Force.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate everything.
I want you to know that I had my oatmeal this morning.
Oh, good.
Again, and my whole grain toast. So that was a good thing.
Great.
I just wanted to say thank you also to all the employees. It's great to be encouraged by one another, a whole community of employees at Shasta County working together for the betterment of our future. I keep thinking that someday I'll stand up here really skinny in front of you working on that, but I do appreciate all the encouragement. And thanks to all of you. You do a great job every year.
Thank you.
Very nice. Thank you.
Thank you again, and congratulations to everyone, and good luck in your future endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to the consent calendar. The following consent calendar items are expected to be routine and non-controversial. They may be acted upon by the board at one time without discussion. Any board member, staff member, or interested person may request an item be removed from the consent calendar for discussion and consideration. I will announce that item C1 has been pulled from the agenda, and actually for today, it's not going to regular calendar, it's just pulled off the agenda in entirety. I have no other requests.
Move approval of the
Second.
calendar.
Been moved and seconded to approve the consent calendar as amended. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Move on to R3. Receive legislative update and consider action on specific legislation related to Shasta County's legislative platform. Consider approving, authorizing the chair or vice chair to sign a letter for the to the California State Parks Director, and receive supervisor's report on countywide issues. Mr. Lees.
Thank you, Chairman Modi, members of the board. Included in your packet is a suggested letter that we send on to the state. As you know, we have been notified that many parks throughout the state are being closed, or at least on the closure list. And because of that, and it comes back to something I've said before, it's important, I think, that we take control of our own destiny here, and it's just that we are no longer in a position to rely on the state to always bail us out. Excuse me. So with that being said, there has been an organization come forward and asking for our support in taking control over one of those state parks that were on the closure list so that it will remain open, continue to be a viable tourist attraction, and bring certainly a lot of pleasure as well as revenue into the North State. Along with this support, one of the questions, and Supervisor Bob brought this to my attention, certainly, although this park resides entirely in Shasta County, it is right on the border, and Siskiyou County believes it to be part of their area also. In a part of your packet today on your desk, there was a letter from the chairperson of the board from Siskiyou County also recommending support of this approval. So it's two counties working together to go to the state to see if we can't continue to keep at least one of our parks open. So with that, I'm asking the board to consider this, and if there's any questions, we have Mr. Honesecker here from Innovations that would be able to address any of those concerns.
If you're looking for a motion, I'll move that we accept and send this letter, but I'd welcome the opportunity to read the letter, Chairman Modi.
You can certainly do that, yes.
I'll go ahead and second.
Okay. Thank you, Chairman Modi. This letter, ladies and gentlemen, is addressed to Ms. Ruth Coleman, Director, California State Parks. Dear Ms. Coleman, and its reference to Castle Craig State Park. Shasta County Board of Supervisors supports the proposed Innovations Housing to enter into an agreement with the California State Parks to operate Castle Craig State Park. Castle Craig State Park is one of 70 scheduled for closure as a result of this year's budget cuts. However, Assembly Bill 42 authorized Huffman State Parks authorized California State Parks to enter into an agreements with nonprofit organizations to operate parks scheduled for closure. California State Parks has a successful history of partnering to operate parks without relinquishing ownership, control, or responsibility. Innovations Housing has a successful history of partnering with local, state, and federal government entities to accomplish achieved goals. Innovations Housing is proposing to provide all core functions of park operation consistent with California State Parks' mission and guiding principles for partnership agreements. Innovations Housing is proposed to expand educational and recreational activities, catch up on deferred maintenance, and make capital improvements to the park. California State Parks provide for the health, inspiration, and education of the people of California by helping to preserve the state's biological diversity, protecting its most valued natural and cultural resources, and creating opportunities for high-quality outdoor recreation. Furthermore, local economies in many areas of the state, particularly rural, rely on state park visitors to generate local economic activity. Please give serious consideration to the proposal by Innovations Housing to keep Castle Craig State Park open. Very truly yours, Leonard Modi, Chairman, Shasta County Board of Supervisors.
Boy, I write a pretty good letter, don't I?
You do an excellent job, Chairman Modi. Perhaps we could welcome some of the principals to
Well, we
maybe.
will in a second. Here we
All
have-
right, very good, sir.
Thank you.
I don't mind if you do.
No, I got it. Go ahead.
Okay. I just wanted to say thank you for your innovative approach to managing a local gem. I look forward to seeing much success.
And now if you'd like to introduce them, because I actually have some questions, so maybe
Very
Mr.
good, sir.
Koenigsegger would like to come up to the, if you can come up to the podium. We'll give you a chance to give a shameless plug, and then I'll have a question for you.
Good morning, gentlemen. No, please go ahead.
We'll go ahead and introduce yourself. And
My name is Jim Koenigsegger. I am the Chief Executive Officer of Innovations Housing, and I live here in Reading.
Thank you. The question I have before we move on this letter is, obviously, Innovations is known for its, the building of houses and things like that. But can you give me a little bit of where the experience or background you're going to have as far as running a state park? I mean, is there?
That's a great question, and I guess I would start by saying that I was very hesitant to get to this point in the process. I received the RFP from the state and went to a workshop that they put on that was very educational, and after that I've been working with Heidi Horvitz, our local superintendent here, and some great community volunteers, a few of which are retired state parks folks and retired U.S. Forest Service folks, and they've basically come alongside us and said they're going to volunteer a lot of their time to help us figure out how to run a park and to get this park running, not just the way it was, but the way it should be. And some of these older guys that have retired out of the service with 30, 40 years of experience are really excited about this. They've got a lot of ideas and things that we could do with this park using volunteers and some grant money that's out there.
Great. Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, Jim.
All right. Thanks, gentlemen.
Chairman Modi, perhaps at this time it would be an opportunity for us to get an update on what's going on at Shasta Park and Museum.
That would be great.
Hi there, my name is Heidi Horvitz, and I'm the Sector Superintendent with California State Parks. So as we know, May 13th, the letter came out stating that our funds were cut to such an extent 70 parks had to close. In the local area, we have Weaverville Joss House, which is in Trinity County, Shasta State Historic Park, Castle Crags, and Ida Dobie down south. We had three options. One was to four options. One was to close the park, but the other was to find three different ways to partner. We could either go through a concession, so someone would come in and privatize the park and concession it out, which is not really an option for a historic unit because there's no income. The second option was to find someone who would come in, a nonprofit, to operate the park, such as Innovations Housing, and that way it would decrease our burden and they would operate the park. The third option is a contingent fund or a donor agreement where a nonprofit or a benefactor would give the funds necessary so state parks could continue running the park, and the funds would come from outside of the government. Presently, we are doing the donor agreement. We're trying for the donor agreement, and we're being very successful with both the Weaverville Joss House and Shasta State Historic Park. Shasta Historical Society has really stepped up as they helped to create the park in the origination of the park. Which started in the 20s and 30s. They're now stepping up to help us make those connections within the county to find the funds necessary to keep the park open. Even if it's on a minimal basis like it is now, which is 2 days a week, 1 day for the general public, 1 day for school groups. That's the goal, and we're working very hard towards that.
Should anyone in the audience or anyone watching on television wish to assist in this very important initiative, how can they get involved?
They can contact me. In the phone book, I can give anybody my business card. Also, the Shasta Historical Society they're the ones actually soliciting the funds, and they're the nonprofit that a tax-deductible donation could be made to. And their goal is to have people donate money for 3 years. The goal is to keep the park, have them generate the funds for 3 years, and to have people pledge to that commitment.
Thank you.
Thank you, Heidi. Well, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor of the letter?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Jim, I hope you're successful. I have many, many good memories as a kid camping up there, so do a good job.
Beautiful area.
Mr. Lees, anything else? We will start with supervisory reports from Mr. Kehoe.
Pass.
Mr. Baugh.
Thank you, Chair Modi. I'll share from our recent meeting with the Regional Council of Rural Counties. Specifically, we had a lengthy discussion regarding the Board of Forestry and the SRA fees that I call taxes, and I think we all look at them as being taxes. Something came out in the discussion I think is important for the board to understand is that the Board of Forestry pretty much admitted that the SRA fees, if collected, if they are successful in collecting them, would go to administration, basically, rather not on the ground, no fire prevention, no maintenance of the forest, and there'd be very little left over for actual work out there on the ground. Maybe the second year they're saying, maybe not. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And a big issue with the rural counties is that they still haven't decided, they being the Board of Forestry, the state of California, if the fees are not paid, how they will enforce the collection. And their number one option seems to be to force it on the tax rolls through the counties. And I'd just like to say up front that I would not support that. And I would hope that this board and other boards are taking up this same thought eventually, that we would stand strong and say we refuse to collect these taxes that are illegal through our own inclusion on the county tax rolls. I believe it'll go to court before that. There are people that are just happy to get that first bill to present it for a lawsuit. Anyway, I just wanted to give you an update on the way the rural counties are presenting this.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Haas?
Just the fact that it's continuing to rain. We asked for rain, and now we're getting it. And I want you all to know I wore my duck tie today. It's duck weather out there, about 2 months after the duck season. But that's all I have. But it's great to see the moisture coming to California because we really, really need it. Help the economy of California a great deal. So
absolutely,
not just here, but all of California.
And I just want to report that, well, actually, I wanted to thank the staff members. We had a community meeting in Happy Valley, and a number of staff came out and spent several hours in the evening. I appreciate that. Mr. Hawes and I attended the RABA RTPA joint meeting and had a lengthy discussion about RABA and bus routes. And then I attended the Northern California Water Association meeting and have the reports and the agenda for the board members who would like to look at this, peruse this. And also, they've developed sort of an outreach program to speak to the issues of water in the North State and their attempts to preserve our water and our water rights. So they're really taking a pretty proactive stance now to try to fight off the attempts to take our water. And then finally, yesterday, Mr. Kehoe and I attended the Women's Fund Reach Higher Shasta. It was pretty interesting to hear about what's happening to our kids in our high schools and why some of them, or actually quite a few of them, are not even thinking about going on to college because of some of the choices that are made early on in the process, and they're really trying to make some efforts to change that. So with that, we'll move on to item R4, Health and Human Services. Appoint members to the Public Health Advisory Board and receive an annual report. Mr. Ewert, good morning.
Good morning. Donnell Ewert, Director of the Public Health Branch of the Health and Human Services Agency. Our Public Health Advisory Board is celebrating its 10th anniversary this month, and it's been really an invaluable resource to the Health and Human Services Agency. And I just want to mention a couple of their accomplishments over the last 10 years. They gave us significant input and participated to a great extent in the creation of the Healthy Shasta County 2010 Strategic Plan for the Public Health Department during the last decade. And they also participated to the same extent in the preparation of the Health and Human Services 2020 strategic plan, which has been very valuable to us and given us good community input. They also advised the Health and Human Services Agency on a myriad of public health issues during that time, giving us community input on a variety of initiatives that we wanted to put forward in the area of public health. And finally, they are the sponsors of our Excellence in Public Health Awards here in the county, which recognizes community members and organizations for their contributions to the public's health. And I think Brad Frost is going to be mentioning the upcoming event in May this year. The business before us today is related to membership. The FAB is, we call it the FAB. The Public Health Advisory Board is made up of 15 members, 5 of which are nominated by yourselves to represent your districts, and then 10 are nominated by the Public Health Advisory Board itself. This year we had one member decide not to continue, and so the Public Health Advisory Board has recommended Jessica Delaney to be appointed to replace Paula Percy. And then there are 4 members who would like to continue and have been recommended by the FAB for reappointment, and those are Julia De La Rosa Blair, Robin Glasgow, Colleen Hopper, and Kathleen Wyatt. So that's what's up for the vote today. And I just wanted to point out that there is one error in the staff report, and I apologize for that. Down the last line on the first page, we said that we listed the 5 members whose terms expire in 2014, and we, in error, listed Adrian Rogers, who did resign from the FAB last year, and in his place, Lori Chapman-Cyphers was appointed in April of last year, so I apologize to Ms. Chapman-Cyphers for that mistake. So with that, I guess you can perhaps make your motions on that.
Pleasure of the board. Okay.
Second. Yep. As amended.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? All in favor of the recommendation as amended, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
And according to the Public Health Advisory Board bylaws, each year the chairman of the board comes to the Board of Supervisors to make an annual report. And so today we have Brad Frost, who has served as a chairman during the past year, here to make his report.
And before you do that, I'm going to ask, we have a request to speak from Mr. Alexander. So.
Thank you for the opportunity here today to address the board on this matter of, unfortunately, the motion was made before I had a chance to speak on it, proposed PHAB appointment and reappointments. Now, when considering any prospective reappointments to the Public Health Advisory Board, one question that should always be borne in mind is the vision that each would have for county public health. After all, the whole mission of the Public Health Advisory Board is to advise public health. So it should go without saying, therefore, that the whole question of vision should be front and center in any consideration of appointments and reappointments. So what is the vision that each of the proposed reappointments has for county public health? Ultimately, it can only be one or the other of 2 fundamental visions, though there be many nuances of difference among the variations of the one, likewise for those of the other. They are each on the foundation either of the one fundamental vision or of the other. So what are the 2 fundamental visions herein being spoke of? Each is based on its own foundational premise. Ascertain the premise, ascertain the vision. So what are the 2 foundational premises? One premise is that people are created responsible and are therefore free to make those moral choices in the here now for which they will in the hereafter bear account. Additionally, this premise presupposes that popular self-control guided by a sound moral code is an essential element of political liberty, and that when time has passed into eternity, it will be of no consequence that a person may occasionally have chosen red meat, russet potatoes, and black coffee over wheatgrass, rice cakes, and bottled water, especially after eternity surpasses its first 50,000-year mark. Then there's the other premise, the one that makes the slippery slope even slipperier than it would otherwise be. 'Tis the one that says, because primordial biomass cannot possibly be competent to make choices at all, that which may ultimately, according to the theory of Mr. Darwin, may ultimately have evolved from it, humanity, according to the worldview underlying the premise, is per se likewise incompetent to make choices as to diet and other similar aspects of personal lifestyle. Such is the premise. And under it, because man is assumed to be incompetent, control under this premise would then be deemed to be required to be exercised over all, save those exercising said control. The premise is by definition fundamentally and irreconcilably antithetical to both representative government per se and to political liberty ultimately. From the foundational premise grows the tree, which is the fundamental vision, and a tree is known by its fruit. The choice is clear: restoration of public health to its historic functionalities, or health in all policies. All means all. So what about the proposed PHAB reappointees and appointee?
Mr. Alexander, you're kind of past you, so you can sum up, please.
Okay. A tree is known by its fruit, and the fruit we are already well acquainted with: health in all policies. PHAB needs different appointee and reappointees. Those whose fundamental vision for public health has no place for health in all policies. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alexander, and I do apologize. I thought you wanted to speak to the report, not the appointments. So with that in mind, I'm going to ask the board to revisit the issue again after you've heard the testimony, to see if you'd like to make your motion again. And
I'll move approval again.
I'll second.
any other discussion?
Clarification, are we then vacating the original motion?
Yes, I would say that the appropriate action would be to vacate the original motion, consider the information provided by Mr. Alexander, and then take whatever action that the board deems appropriate.
So we need a motion to vacate the original motion?
I would suggest yes. Why don't we have a motion, for procedural reasons, why don't we have a motion to vacate the original motion and then revisit the issue?
Okay, I'll move to vacate the original.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now
I'll move to staff recommendation to on this report.
Second.
any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Mr. Frost, welcome.
Good morning, Chairman Modi, members of the board. It is my pleasure to come before you this morning and give a recap on the Public Health Advisory Board for the last year as outgoing chair. I've never been referred to as the Fab 15 before, but that's something else. Probably the most exciting thing that we have going on in regards to the county is the 2020 strategic plan. In essence, we've been playing defense as a county for the last couple of years in regards to our realignments and our funding, et cetera, and you really ask the question of why do these boards exist? And we've been rather informed on a number of relevant public health issues over the last couple of years, but really you have a very, very competent staff and a very enthusiastic staff that works for you at the county level. So what we get excited about on the public side is how we're managing the future, and the 2020 plan is really something that the Board of Supervisors should look at and hold the staffs accountable for. Probably the most important thing is we're looking at these community transformation grants, and we're going to deal with 4 important issues. One is smoking, the other one is safe routes to school and work, healthy eating, and the last will be chronic health issues. And these are the endeavors that you should evaluate your staffs around from now through this 2020 period. Smoking is, the more I'm informed about it and the more I'm educated about it as a lay person, the more I'm aware of how much it devastates and takes the funds of our community. You know, I lost my father early to that issue, but regardless of that, just the services that we are taking in that area. You know, these are very large encompassing areas, these 4 issues, but your public health staff, your HHSA staff is really zoned into taking the dollars that you're putting in front of them and utilizing them to see some results. And what we're in essence doing is being proactive and moving the funds upstream. You are taxed, probably the wrong term, but demanded that you utilize your funds, and it always seems to be at the end of the day, after things have happened. When you go to the proactive side, when you look at these safe routes to schools, whether it's for the kids or it's dealing with alcohol awareness, or now we have the marijuana issue, or we have the prescription drug issue, and making young people aware that we don't have the issues like we had out on Gas Point Road this last week, where we have 2 young children in the hospital. When you look at the healthy eating, you just saw residuals of that today. Proactive participation, and its education, its awareness, and we're seeing it through the CalFresh program and all of these things. And what we're trying to do from the public health side, or the advisory board side, is keep it in these 4 lanes so it's very easy to disseminate out the information so you can evaluate whether you're really being effective with the funds that you're spending. The last one is chronic health, and obviously we see that that's the residual of all these other things, alcohol abuse, et cetera. So I'm pretty excited about this. And, I've had the opportunity to serve for about half the length of the life of the Public Health Board, serving proudly for District 5. And I look forward to continuing that. We lost a very instrumental person in Paula Piercy, who stepped off the board, and she was one of the original members, and enough cannot be said about her and the contribution she made. Additionally, I invite you all to the May 15th Excellence in Public Awards program. Thank you for your time. I'll gladly answer any questions you may have.
Mr. Baugh?
Not so much a question. I just want to thank you, Mr. Frost, for your service as chair of the board. To me, the Public Health Advisory Board offers an independent evaluation and a valuable insight and direction for Shasta County, and that's much appreciated from the perspective of the board and from the community. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Kehoe.
Mr. Frost, would it be convenient for you to mention the names of your colleagues on the board?
It would be if I have it. Okay.
Don't get tricked up by that Adrian Rogers one, though, because...
Yes. Okay. So probably most interesting, we have Barbara Jackson coming in as your new chairperson, and she will do an excellent job, much better than those present. Catherine Ann Campbell, Dr. John Coe, Teresa Flynn Gassman, James Holdridge, Linda Kelzer, Joe Ayer, who, as you know, is new to our community with Blood Source, Richard Yoder, Lori Chapman, Cyphers, and did I catch everyone? I did not. Okay, and then your reappointments, obviously. Julia De La Rosa Blair, Robin Glasgow, Colleen Hopper, and Catherine White, who was the past chair. And, obviously, when Supervisor Bob appointed me, my question was, what kind of contribution can I make? Because I really am the business layperson on the board. And it's been a tremendous educational journey for me. And I have found that I can make some contributions. You have a real diverse professional group that serves on this. More importantly, you have a great staff of people. I mean, they come to these meetings and present enthusiastically about what they're doing here in this county. And unfortunately, they don't get enough credit. And all of our public servants, as you know, do not. But it's a very exciting time in public health. I'm glad to be here.
Mr. Haas.
Well, the issue that was on national news this morning, and it continues, is diabetes. If we could get somewhat of a control on that, our health care in the future would fall off a lot. So all that you guys do, continue to do, really does help, because I know that's high in Shasta County, and we need to keep working on it.
Well, Donnell has the focus on this, and we can't spend our way out of this. We've got to get to the proactive side of it. There's just not enough funds there. So, and these 4 issues you'll see over the next 10 to 12 years will make a real significant impact on how these dollars are spent.
Mr. Keogh.
I have a question of Mr. Ewert. Mr. Ewert, this morning Mr. Alexander has suggested two propositions. One I would determine as a free will proposition, and the other is a guided will. So would you mind amplifying what Mr. Frost has said to us this morning relative to the purpose and objectives of the advisory board?
Absolutely. In public health, we acknowledge that it's very important that individuals make healthy choices for themselves, and our main goal is to increase healthy options. Our health officer uses a good example. He lived in Cottonwood in the past, and he tried to ride his bike to work along 273 as a personal choice, but he almost got hit by several motor vehicles on his way. And he says, getting on the bike in the first place is my personal choice, but whether there's a bike lane is a community choice. And I think that's the important thing. We have the personal responsibility side, but we also need community environments and structures which facilitate health and make health easier. And I like to use the example also of our water systems, which are actually operated by our cities for the most part, although the county public works department does run some water systems as well. We don't ask individuals to boil their water anymore in order to be safe. We provide a community resource of treated potable water, taking the individual decision out of it so that everyone can be healthier. And I think we've borne great rewards from that. And I think that's the type of philosophy that we've tried to take into chronic disease prevention as well, increasing healthy choices so that people can make an easier choice to be healthy.
Thank you, Mr. Dunn.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I just will add that I agree with you, Mr. Frost, that we have some great staff and sometimes go unrecognized, but with your comments today, that will help alleviate a little bit of that, and we thank you for your efforts. And Donnell, great job. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Move on to R5, which is a scheduled hearing, public hearing and resolution regarding the CDBG grant application. Dr. Coons.
Good morning, Chairman Modi, members of the board. Richard Coons, Director, Housing and Community Action Programs. Here to ask the board to conduct the second of two public hearings to consider or to solicit input concerning the 2012 CDBG grant application. This year we're hoping to submit a planning and technical assistance grant to do a market analysis on a business loan program. The grant will be for $50,000. I can either discuss what we're submitting, or it's up to the board if they'd like to have the public hearing first.
Any questions to the board at this time?
Yes. Thank you, Chairman Modi. Second paragraph on page 2, you make mention of this 50% rule, and it indicates jurisdictions will be ineligible to apply for any additional CDBG funds unless the jurisdiction has expended at least 50% of all of the subject funds awarded in the previous year. How about adding some meat to that?
That was one of the big considerations when looking for projects for this grant, because the state has changed some of their guidelines, and what they mean is exactly that. If we receive this $50,000 grant, if we don't have $25,000 of it spent by the time we submit next year's 2013 grant, the whole jurisdiction, Shasta County, becomes ineligible for any type of grant. So that was one of the bigger components we were looking at when we were looking at different programs. Would we be able to spend this money? And I'm completely confident that if we get the PTA grant, we would expend a minimum of 50%.
Well, are we being encouraged to frivolously spend money if we don't need to do so?
You know, early in my career, I made the mistake of saying, if someone else doesn't apply for it, we might as well, because someone else will if we don't. No, we don't have that. We had quite a few different suggestions. On the public hearing on February 17th, we had, I have a list of them if you like, and I can read them to you. We had at least 7 or 8 different suggestions, and we went through them very carefully to see which ones were either ready, because part of CDBG is never first money in. It's usually on down the line. So we had to have something that was shovel ready, project ready. We had to have something that was appropriate for CDBG, and some of them, what we're doing is we're finding alternative funding sources for them. We had one that to transition a nursing home into a veterans transitional home, and CDBG wasn't appropriate funding for that. So what we're doing is I'm sitting on a committee with them now, and we're seeking other types of funding. So no, we went through each one to make sure. And this program will allow us to apply, because what we'd like to do in the 2013 round is apply for the actual loan program. So this is a study to show need for that type of program.
So to summarize then, by requesting the $50,000, if we're fortunate enough to be awarded that we have a legitimate idea and programs in mind to spend that money.
Yes, over the last few years, I've been sending 2 staff members to training. It's 3 weeks of training combined, and they come out with their certificate to be business loan processors. So we've done our due diligence up until this point. I actually wanted to bring this to the board last year, but we weren't quite ready. We've teamed with a couple local organizations that would work with us to help promote the program. So I think we're in a position now that's appropriate time now to apply for it.
Thank you.
You know, just a follow-up question to that, not relating particularly to Shasta County, but anywhere in the state. I'm assuming that if the state came up with this 50% rule, they must have been concerned that counties were getting money in different locations or locales and just were sort of hoarding the money and not following through on their projects. Is that kind of where this came from?
Yeah, I believe so. They also have a certain amount of programs like this, which is called program income, that if we have $250,000 in program income, which is like our DAP program where we do down payment assistance when the loan's paid off, we have to spend that money first. If we have more than $250,000, we're not qualified again. So we have to make sure that we're not hoarding the money and sitting on it, that the taxpayers' dollars are going, that they're cycling through, because each dollar we spend goes back out into the community as we receive it.
Yeah, I hope, and to follow up on Ms. Keogh's comment, I agree, and I hope that they're not suggesting just to spend money because there's money, but more to use the money for the wise purposes that it was dedicated to and get it out there and make use of that money rather than just sitting in someone's bank account. So the last thing I would ask you, the board's aware of it, but for those in the audience and watching, if you would, we talk about CDBG, but it stands for?
Community Development Block Grant. It's actually through the Department of Housing and Urban Development. It comes from the federal government, allocated by the Congress, and then to the state, and the state makes us compete for it.
It's our tax dollars coming back to be used here locally.
Yes.
Any other questions by the board? I will open the public hearing. Anybody wish to speak on this item today? Seeing none, close the public hearing. Pleasure of the board.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we are adjourned.